Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the starship Harmony, staring at the empty space where a planet should have been alive with lights. The Centauri homeworld hung before them like a dark marble against the stars. No radio signals came. From its cities, no ships moved between its 3 moons. The planet that once held 5 billion souls was completely silent. Any signs of life down there, Lisa? Jake asked his science officer. Dr. Lisa Chen shook her head as she studied her instruments. The cities are intact, the power grids are still running. But I'm not detecting any movement, no heat signatures from living beings. It's like everyone just stopped what they were doing and went to sleep. Jake had been a space commander for 15 years. He had seen wars, plagues, and natural disasters. But this was different. This was wrong in a way that made his skin crawl. The Centauri were traders and explorers. They never stayed quiet for long, yet for the past 6 months, no one had heard from them. "Take us into orbit, Ryan," Jake ordered his pilot. Ryan Parker nodded and guided the ship closer to the planet. As they moved through the upper atmosphere, the ship's cameras showed them the Centauri cities in perfect detail, streets full of parked vehicles, buildings with lights still on, gardens growing wild because no one was there to tend them, but no people anywhere. "Sir," called Katie Walsh from the communications station. She was the youngest member of the crew, only 22 years old and fresh from the Space Academy. "I'm picking up something strange." Jake walked over to her station. "What kind of strange?" Katie frowned at her displays. "It's a signal, but not like any I've learned about in training. It's very faint, coming from deep space. But there's something about it that feels ... familiar. Can you put it on the speakers?" Katie nodded and pressed a few buttons. A low, haunting sound filled the bridge. It was barely audible, like a whisper at the edge of hearing. But there was something musical about it, like a song played so slowly that each note lasted for minutes. "How long has this been broadcasting?" Jake asked. "I don't know, sir, but Bell thinks it might be connected to what happened here." Bell was what the crew called their ship's computer. The artificial intelligence had been with the Harmony for 3 years, and everyone trusted its analysis. "Bell, what do you think?" Jake asked the air. The computer's calm voice answered from speakers around the bridge. "Commander, the signal appears to be artificial in origin. It broadcasts on frequencies that can affect certain types of brain patterns. I believe it may be responsible for the condition of the Centauri population." Lisa looked up from her instruments. "You mean this signal put them to sleep?" "That is my preliminary assessment. This signal creates a specific harmonic frequency that appears to shut down higher brain functions while keeping basic life support systems active. The affected individuals enter a state similar to deep hibernation." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "How widespread is this signal?" "Unknown, Commander. However, I have detected similar harmonic patterns in recent communications from 17 other star systems. All have gone silent within the past 12 months. The bridge fell quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's engines." Jake looked around at his crew. Lisa was pale, her hands shaking slightly as she worked. Ryan gripped his controls tighter than usual. Katie stared at her communications board like it might bite her. "Bell, could this signal affect humans?" Jake asked. "Insufficient data, Commander. Human brain patterns are different from most known alien species. However, I recommend caution." Jake made a decision. "Katie, record everything about this signal. Get a full analysis. Lisa, I want you to lead a team down to the planet's surface. Find out exactly what happened to the Centauri. Ryan, keep us in a stable orbit and monitor for any changes in the signal." "Strength, what about you, sir?" Lisa asked. "I'm going to contact Earth Command. They need to know about this immediately." The next few hours passed in tense activity. Lisa's landing team found the Centauri cities exactly as they appeared from orbit. The alien beings were everywhere, but they were all unconscious. They lay in their beds, sat in their chairs, or had simply fallen where they stood when the signal reached them. They were alive but completely unresponsive. Meanwhile, Katie worked on analyzing the mysterious signal. The more she studied it, the more convinced she became that it was not natural. Someone or something had created this sound as a weapon. But what kind of beings would want to put entire planets to sleep? Commander, Bell said as Jake finished his report to Earth Command. I have completed my analysis of the signal. It appears to be only a fragment of a larger harmonic pattern. The complete pattern would be significantly more powerful. More powerful how? The current signal affects individual planets. The complete pattern could potentially affect entire star systems simultaneously. Jake sat back in his command chair, the weight of the situation settling on his shoulders. 17 worlds had already fallen silent. How many more were out there? Their populations trapped in endless sleep? And somewhere in the galaxy, whoever created this weapon was still out there. Sir, Katie called out. I'm getting reports from other human ships. The signal is getting stronger. Jake looked at the main screen, where the Centauri homeworld continued its silent orbit. Somewhere in the darkness beyond, an enemy was singing the galaxy to sleep, one world at a time. And humanity might be the only species left awake to stop them. Set course for human space, Jake ordered. Maximum speed. As the harmony turned away from the sleeping world, the mysterious signal continued its soft, terrible song. Katie listened to it through her headphones, trying to understand its secrets. There was something almost beautiful about it, like a lullaby sung by a voice too old and too sad to remember what it meant to be truly alive. She didn't know it yet, but halfway across the galaxy, a 3-year-old girl named Emma was hearing the same song in her dreams, and unlike everyone else who heard it, Emma was not falling asleep. Instead, she was learning to sing back. Emma Rodriguez sat in the middle of her mother's workshop, surrounded by metal tools and spare parts. The 3-year-old girl arranged the pieces in careful patterns on the floor, humming a melody that seemed to come from somewhere deep inside her mind. Her small hands moved the tools with purpose, creating shapes that looked almost like flowers made of silver and steel. Emma, honey, you shouldn't play with mommy's work tools, Maria Rodriguez said as she entered the workshop. She was tired from a long day of checking the terraforming equipment that kept their colony world's air clean and breathable. Emma looked up at her mother with bright green eyes. The sleepy songs are getting louder, Mama. I have to make the wake-up shapes. Maria frowned and knelt beside her daughter. This was not the first time Emma had said strange things. For months now, the little girl had been talking about songs that no one else could hear. She drew pictures of sleeping giants floating between the stars. She hummed melodies that seemed to shift and change each time she sang them. What sleepy songs, baby? Maria asked gently. Emma pointed toward the ceiling. The ones from up there. They make everyone want to take long naps, but someone has to stay awake to wake them up later. Before Maria could ask more questions, her communication device beeped with an incoming message. It was marked as urgent and came from the Colonial Research Network. She opened it while keeping one eye on Emma, who had returned to arranging the metal pieces. The message contained an audio file from a starship called the Harmony. The captain was asking all colonies to listen to a strange signal they had discovered and report any unusual effects. Maria put on her headphones and played the file. The sound that came through was low and haunting, like a song played in a dream. It made her feel sleepy and peaceful, as if she could just lie down and rest forever. But before she could take off the headphones, Emma suddenly stood up and began humming loudly. The melody Emma sang was beautiful and clear, like bells ringing on a winter morning. As soon as she started humming, the sleepy feeling from the signal went away. Maria felt alert and awake again, as if someone had splashed cold water on her face. Emma, how did you know to do that? Maria asked, pulling off her headphones. The wake-up song fights the sleepy song, Emma said simply. I learned it from the metal friends. Maria looked at the pattern Emma had created on the floor. The tools were arranged in a complex design that seemed to pulse and shift when she wasn't looking directly at it. She grabbed her recording device and started documenting everything. Sing your song again, sweetie. Mama needs to record it, Emma nodded and began humming. This time, Maria recorded both the audio and video, capturing the melody and the strange patterns Emma had made. When the little girl finished, Maria immediately uploaded everything to the Colonial Research database with a note explaining what had happened. Within an hour, responses started coming in from across human space. Other parents reported that their children had been acting strangely too. A 5-year-old boy on Mars had been building crystal structures out of his toys. A 7-year-old girl on Europa had painted pictures that seemed to move and dance. All of them had started these behaviors around the same time the mysterious signal had been detected. Dr. Lisa Chen's response came directly from the Starship Harmony. She wanted to speak with Emma and Maria immediately through a video call. Maria set up the connection while Emma continued to play with her metal patterns. Mrs. Rodriguez, I'm Dr. Chen from the exploration vessel Harmony, the woman on the screen said. We're the ones who first detected the signal you heard. Can you tell me exactly what happened when your daughter heard it? Maria explained everything while Emma worked quietly nearby. Dr. Chen listened carefully, taking notes and occasionally glancing at something off-screen. Mrs. Rodriguez, your daughter's melody is mathematically perfect. When we play it alongside the deep space signal, they create a harmony that cancels out the sleep-inducing effects. She somehow knew exactly what frequency would counteract the alien signal, but how is that possible? She's only 3 years old. We don't know yet, but Emma isn't the only one. We're getting reports from colonies across human space about children exhibiting similar abilities. They all seem to be responding to the signal in ways that adults cannot. Emma looked up from her metal patterns and walked over to the video screen. She studied Dr. Chen for a moment, then smiled. The sleeping friends are very far away, Emma said. They've been sleeping for a very long time. They made the sleepy song because they were sad about all the fighting. But they forgot how to wake up. Dr. Chen leaned closer to her screen. Emma, how do you know this? The metal friends tell me things when I make the right shapes. They remember when the sleeping friends were awake. They want to help them remember how to open their eyes again. Maria felt a chill run through her. Her 3-year-old daughter was talking about things that were far beyond her understanding. Yet somehow, Emma seemed to know exactly what she was talking about. Dr. Chen, is my daughter in danger? Maria asked. The scientist was quiet for a moment. Mrs. Rodriguez, we believe your daughter and the other children like her might be humanity's only hope of solving this crisis. The signal we detected has already put 17 alien civilizations to sleep. If it continues to spread, it could affect the entire galaxy, but she's just a baby, I know. And we would never ask you to put her at risk, but if Emma is willing to help us understand her abilities, we might be able to find a way to wake up all the sleeping worlds. Emma had returned to her metal patterns, but she was listening to every word. She looked up at her mother with serious eyes that seemed much older than her 3 years. Mama, I want to help the sleeping friends. They've been having bad dreams for too long. Maria looked at her daughter, then at Dr. Chen on the screen. The weight of the decision pressed down on her like a heavy blanket. How could she let her little girl get involved in something so dangerous? But how could she refuse when so many lives might depend on it? What would you need Emma to do? Maria asked finally. For now, just keep recording her songs and patterns. We're sending a team of specialists to your colony. They'll work with Emma to understand her abilities better. And Mrs. Rodriguez, yes, thank you. You and Emma might just save the galaxy. As the call ended, Emma hummed her wake-up song again. The sound filled the workshop with hope and light, pushing back against the darkness that threatened to put the entire universe to sleep. Dr. Alex Turner sat in his office on Earth, surrounded by books and computer screens showing ancient alien writings. As the galaxy's leading expert on dead languages, he had spent 20 years studying the ruins of civilizations that had vanished long before humans reached the stars. Now, for the first time in his career, he might have found something that could help living people instead of just satisfying his curiosity. The recording from Emma Rodriguez played through his speakers for the 100th time, the little girl's melody was hauntingly beautiful, but Alex was more interested in the mathematical patterns hidden within the notes. He had run the song through every analysis program he owned, and the results were extraordinary. "Computer, show me the comparison chart again," Alex said. The main screen displayed 12 different symbols, each one carved into stone or metal by civilizations that had died out thousands of years ago. Below each symbol was a section of Emma's melody, broken down into mathematical frequencies. The match was perfect. Alex picked up his communication device and connected to the Starship Harmony. Commander Morrison and Dr. Chen appeared on his screen, both looking tired from days of investigating the mysterious signal. "Dr. Turner, please tell me you have good news," Commander Morrison said. "I have news. Whether it's good or bad depends on how you look at it." Alex pulled up his research on the main display. Emma's song contains fragments of something I call the universal lullaby. I found pieces of it in the ruins of 12 different civilizations scattered across the galaxy. Dr. Chen leaned forward. 12 civilizations? How is that possible? Each one left behind the same symbol before they disappeared. A child reaching toward the stars with musical notes spiraling around them. I always thought it was just mythology, but now I think it was a warning. Alex changed the display to show ancient stone carvings and metal tablets. Each one showed the same image, a small figure with outstretched arms, surrounded by flowing lines that represented music or sound. The oldest of these ruins is on a planet in the Vega system. The civilization there died out over 50,000 years ago. The newest is from the Altair colonies, which went silent about 3,000 years ago. All of them left behind fragments of the same melody that Emma is humming. Commander Morrison rubbed his forehead. "Are you saying this has happened before many times?" "But I think I know what's causing it now." Alex brought up a new set of data on his screen. "The deep space signal you detected isn't just a weapon. It's a lullaby created by a race I'm calling the Silence Weavers. According to the fragments I can translate, they built it to end all war and suffering in the galaxy by putting everyone to sleep." Dr. Chen asked. "By putting everyone to sleep forever?" The Silence Weavers believed that consciousness was the source of all pain and conflict. Their solution was to create a psychic frequency that would give every living being eternal peace through endless dreams. Alex pulled up more ancient texts on his screen. The symbols were twisted and strange, but he had spent years learning too. Read them. The problem is, the Silence Weavers made their lullaby to well. According to these records, they tested it on themselves first. They've been asleep for over 1,000,000 years, drifting somewhere in the void between galaxies, but their machine keeps broadcasting the signal, spreading it slowly across the galaxy. Then how did those ancient civilizations fight it? Commander Morrison asked. "They didn't fight it. They found a way to sing back." Alex highlighted sections of the ancient texts. Each civilization that encountered the lullaby eventually produced children who could hear it and respond to it. These children created wake-up songs that could break the psychic bonds. But the process always cost them their lives. The silence that followed was heavy with the weight of what Alex had just revealed. Dr. Chen was the first to speak. "You're saying Emma and the other children are going to die if they try to save everyone?" According to the ancient records, yes. The mental strain of creating a counter-frequency powerful enough to wake entire worlds burns out young minds within days or weeks. The children become heroes, but they don't live to see the worlds they save. Alex watched the faces on his screen change as the implications sank in. These were good people who had dedicated their lives to protecting others. The idea of sacrificing children to save the galaxy went against everything they believed in. "There has to be another way," Commander Morrison said finally. "Maybe there is." Alex brought up Emma's recording again. The girl's melody is different from the ancient fragments. It's more complex, more complete. She's not just singing a counter-frequency. She's singing harmony. What does that mean? Dr. Chen asked. The ancient children fought the lullaby by creating opposite sounds that canceled it out. but Emma is doing something else. She's taking the lullaby and changing it into something new. Instead of fighting the signal, she's teaching it to be different. Alex played Emma's song alongside the deep space signal. Together, they created a sound that was neither the sleepy lullaby nor the wake-up call, but something entirely new. It was beautiful and complex, like a conversation between two old friends who had forgotten how to talk to each other. The ancient texts mentioned something called the first song. Alex continued. According to legend, it was the original music that the Silence Weavers created before they turned it into a weapon. They were musicians and artists before they became afraid of consciousness. Emma might be remembering that original song. How is that possible? Commander Morrison asked, I don't know. But human children are different from the aliens who tried this before. Human brains are still developing at age 3. They're more flexible, more open to new patterns. Emma might be able to do what no one else could, not just fight the lullaby, but heal it. Dr. Chen looked hopeful for the first time in days. So Emma might survive this. She might do more than survive. If I'm reading these texts correctly, the first song doesn't just wake people up, it gives them a choice. They can sleep if they want to, or they can wake up and face the universe with all its pain and beauty. True peace comes from choosing rest, not from having it forced on you. Alex saved his research and prepared to send it to the Harmony. I'm transmitting everything I found. But there's something else you need to know. The ancient texts all mention the same thing. The closer you get to the source of the lullaby, the stronger it becomes. If you're planning to find the Silence Weavers, you'll need Emma with you. She's the only one who can sing loud enough to wake up a million-year-old dream. The connection ended, leaving Alex alone with his books and screens. Somewhere in space, a little girl was learning to sing the oldest song in the galaxy. And somewhere in the darkness between the stars, ancient musicians were still sleeping, waiting for someone to remind them how beautiful it could be to be awake. Danny Kim stood in his family's greenhouse on Mars, stacking clear crystals and towers that reached toward the dome ceiling. The 5-year-old boy worked with complete focus, placing each crystal in exactly the right spot when the sunlight hit the towers just right. They made soft ringing sounds that seemed to dance with Emma's song playing from his mother's communication device. Danny, dinner time, called Dr. Susan Kim from the kitchen. She was a botanist who helped grow food for the Mars colonies, but for the past week she had been more interested in watching her son than her plants. Almost finished, Mama, Danny said without looking away from his crystal towers. The wake-up song needs helpers to travel far. On the other side of the greenhouse, Danny's father, Dr. Robert Kim, recorded everything his son did. After hearing about Emma Rodriguez and her special abilities, hundreds of families across human space had started watching their children more carefully. Danny was one of 12 children who seemed to share Emma's gift. Susan walked over to examine her son's work. The crystal towers formed a perfect circle around the greenhouse, each one exactly the same height and distance from the others. When the wind blew through the dome's air vents, the crystals sang together in harmony. How did you know to build them like this? Susan asked. The song lady taught me, Danny said simply. She shows me pictures in my head when I listen to her singing. The song lady was what Danny called Emma, even though he had never met her. Ever since the research teams had started sharing Emma's recordings across the colony networks, children like Danny had begun referring to her as if she were a friend they spoke with every day. Meanwhile, on Europa, 7-year-old Sophie Barnes sat in her bedroom painting another mural on the wall. Her parents had given up trying to stop her after the first 3 paintings. The murals showed scenes of sleeping giants floating in space, their faces peaceful but sad. When Sophie played Emma's song while looking at the paintings, the figures seemed to move slightly, as if they were dreaming. Sophie, the research team is here to see your paintings. Her mother, Dr. Janet Barnes, called from downstairs. Sophie wiped paint from her hands and ran to meet the scientists. Dr. Chen had sent teams to study all the children who were responding to Emma's song. Sophie's paintings were particularly interesting. because they showed details about the silent weavers that no human had ever seen before. "Hello, Sophie," said Dr. Mark Coleman, the team leader. "We'd like to ask you about your paintings. Can you tell us about the sleeping people you draw?" Sophie nodded and led them to her bedroom. The walls were covered with paintings of massive beings floating in darkness. They were beautiful and terrifying at the same time, with long limbs and faces that looked almost human but somehow older and sadder. "They used to make music," Sophie said, pointing to one painting that showed the beings playing instruments made of light and sound. "But then they got scared of the fighting and the hurting. So they made a song to make everyone sleep forever. But they fell asleep and forgot how to wake up." Dr. Coleman exchanged glances with his team. Sophie was describing the same things that Dr. Turner had found in the ancient texts, but she was only 7 years old and had never seen those records. "How do you know this, Sophie?" Dr. Coleman asked gently. "The song lady tells me when I dream. She says we have to help them remember that being awake can be beautiful too, even when it hurts sometimes." Back on New Haven Colony, Emma sat in the research center that had been built around her family's home. Scientists and doctors came and went, studying her songs and patterns, but Emma paid little attention to them. She was too busy listening to the voices of her new friends. "Danny made crystal helpers today," Emma told her mother as they sat together for lunch. "And Sophie painted more sleeping friends. They're getting ready for the big song." Maria Rodriguez looked at her daughter with a mixture of pride and worrying. In just 1 week, Emma had become the center of a galaxy-wide research effort. Ships from every human colony were sending their brightest scientists to study her abilities. But Emma herself seemed to take it all in stride, as if saving the galaxy was just another game to play. "Emma, sweetheart, the doctors say you might need to take a long trip soon to help the sleeping friends wake up. Are you scared?" Maria asked. Emma shook her head. "The metal friends say it will be okay. And all my singing friends are coming, too. Even if they stay on their own worlds, we'll sing together across the big dark." Dr. Chen entered the room carrying a communication device. "Emma, we have a call from Earth. Some very important people want to talk to you." The screen showed a conference room filled with serious-looking adults in military uniforms and government clothes. Emma recognized some of them from news broadcasts her mother sometimes watched. "Hello, Emma," said a woman with gray hair and kind eyes. "I'm President Williams. I wanted to thank you for helping us understand the signal from space." Emma smiled and waved at the screen. "Hello, President Lady. Are you worried about the sleeping friends too?" "Yes, we are, Emma. We need to ask you something very important. The scientists think they've found where the sleeping friends are. But to help them wake up, you might need to go on a very long trip into space. It could be dangerous." Emma considered this seriously for a moment. "Will my mama come with me?" "If that's what you want, yes. And can I still talk to Danny and Sophie and the other singing friends?" "We'll make sure you can always talk to them." Emma nodded. "Then I want to go. The sleeping friends have been sad for too long. It's time for them to see the stars again." The adults on the screen looked relieved and worried at the same time. President Williams smiled. "Thank you, Emma. You're very brave." "I'm not brave," Emma said matter-of-factly. "I'm just good at singing." After the call ended, Dr. Chen sat down next to Emma and Maria. "The Space Fleet is preparing a special ship for the journey. It will have everything Emma needs to stay safe and comfortable. And we're setting up communication systems so all the children can sing together, no matter how far apart they are." Emma hummed a few notes of her wake-up song, and somewhere across the solar system, Danny's crystals chimed in response while Sophie's paintings seemed to shimmer with hope. The network of gifted children was growing stronger every day, connected by a song that promised to wake up the galaxy, but none of them knew yet that their journey would take them to the edge of known space, where an ancient instrument waited to amplify their voices across the cosmos. The real test was still to come. The starship Harmony drifted at the edge of known space, where stars became sparse and the darkness between them stretched for impossible distances. Emma Rodriguez stood in the ship's observation deck, her small hand pressed against the transparent wall as she stared into the void. Somewhere out there, hidden in the space between galaxies, was the source of the ancient lullaby. "Are you ready, sweetheart?" Maria asked, kneeling beside her daughter. The past month of travel had been hard on both of them, but Emma seemed to grow stronger the farther they got from human space. "The sleeping friends are very close now, Mama," Emma said softly. "I can hear them dreaming. They're having such sad dreams." Commander Morrison joined them at the observation deck, followed by Dr. Chen and the team of child psychologists who had come to help Emma through the dangerous process ahead. Behind them walked Dr. Turner, who had insisted on coming despite never having been in space before. "Emma, can you show us where they are?" Commander Morrison asked gently. Emma pointed toward a section of space that looked empty to everyone else. "Right there, can't you see the big music box?" Dr. Chen checked her instruments and shook her head. "Sensors aren't picking up anything yet. But Emma has been right about everything so far. Bell, begin a detailed scan of the area," Emma indicated. Commander Morrison ordered. The ship's artificial intelligence responded immediately. "Scanning now. Commander, I am detecting a very faint energy signature approximately to light towers ahead. The object appears to be extremely large. As the Harmony moved closer, the mysterious object slowly became visible on their screens. It was massive beyond imagination, shaped like a cathedral made of crystal and metal that stretched for hundreds of miles in every direction. Strange lights pulsed along its surface in slow, hypnotic patterns. "My God," Dr. Turner whispered. "It's beautiful." Emma pressed closer to the window. "It's the biggest musical instrument ever made. The sleeping friends built it to sing their lullaby to all the stars. But they made it to well, and now they can't turn it off." Dr. Chen studied her readings. "The harmonic frequencies coming from that structure are incredible. It's broadcasting the sleep signal across dimensional barriers. No wonder it can reach entire galaxies." "Emma," Dr. Turner said, "the ancient texts mentioned that some of the sleeping friends might still be inside that construct. Do you sense them?" Emma nodded. "Thousands and thousands of them. They're all sleeping in the music room at the center. They've been dreaming the same dream for so long that they forgot it was a dream. Back in human space, the network of gifted children felt the Harmony's approach to the ancient construct. Danny Kim's crystal towers on Mars began ringing louder, their harmonics reaching across the solar system. Sophie Barnes' paintings on Europa seemed to glow with their own light. 12 other children across the colonies started humming Emma's wake-up song without being asked. "Emma, we're receiving transmissions from all the children," Dr. Chen reported. "They're ready to sing with you whenever you are." Emma walked to the center of the observation deck and sat down cross-legged on the floor. Maria sat beside her, holding her daughter's hand. The adult members of the crew formed a circle around them, knowing they were about to witness something that would change the galaxy forever. "Before we begin," Dr. Turner said, "I need you to understand what might happen. The ancient texts suggest that when you sing your song at full power, it will create a feedback loop. Every mind that wakes up will make the wake-up call stronger. If billions of sleeping beings wake up all at once, the psychic shock could be devastating." Emma looked up at him with her bright green eyes. "I know. That's why we have to be very careful. We don't want to scare them awake. We want to teach them how to choose for themselves." She closed her eyes and began to hum. The melody started soft and gentle, like a mother singing to a baby. But as the song continued, it grew more complex. Harmonies wove together in patterns that seemed to exist in more dimensions than the human ear could fully understand. On Mars, Danny's crystals responded to Emma's song, amplifying it and sending it racing across space. On Europa, Sophie began painting frantically, her brushes moving without conscious thought as she created images of sleeping giants beginning to stir. The other gifted children across human space added their voices to the growing symphony, each one contributing a unique part to the universal wake-up call. The ancient construct responded to their combined song. The lights along its surface began pulsing faster, and new harmonies joined the music. But these weren't the simple sleep-inducing frequencies it had broadcast for a million years. These were complex melodies that spoke of choice and consciousness, and the beauty of being awake. "It's working," Dr. Chen whispered, watching her instruments as the signal began to change. "The lullaby is transforming." Inside the construct, the silent weavers began to stir in their endless sleep. For the first time in a million years, their dreams included the possibility of waking up. Some of them chose to sink back into peaceful slumber, but others, curious about this new music they heard, began the slow process of opening ancient eyes. The transformation of the lullaby sent waves across the galaxy. On 17 worlds where alien civilizations had fallen into eternal sleep, beings began to wake up, but instead of the violent awakening that the ancient texts had described, this was gentle and gradual. Each awakening mind was given a choice: remain asleep if they wished, or wake up and rejoin the conscious universe. Emma's song grew stronger as more minds joined the cosmic symphony. The Centauri homeworld was the first to fully awaken, its cities filling with confused but grateful beings who had thought they would never see their families again. Other worlds followed, one by one, as the transformed lullaby reached them, but the process was taking its toll on Emma. The little girl's face was pale with effort, and her mother could feel her daughter's hand trembling in hers. "Emma, you can stop now," Maria said urgently. "You've done enough." Emma shook her head without opening her eyes. "Not yet, Mommer. The sleeping friends in the music box are just starting to remember how to wake up. I have to keep singing until they can sing for themselves." The ancient construct began to change before their eyes. Parts of its crystal structure were reshaping themselves, transforming from a weapon of forced sleep into something new. The silent weavers were awakening and rebuilding their great instrument, turning it into what it was always meant to be, a way for the entire galaxy to sing together in harmony. The Symphony of Awakening had begun, and Emma Rodriguez, a 3-year-old girl from a small human colony, was conducting the greatest concert in the history of the universe. Emma's song filled the observation deck of the harmony as the ancient construct continued to transform before their eyes. The massive structure pulsed with new life, its crystal walls reshaping themselves into flowing, organic curves inside. Millions of silence weavers were slowly awakening from their million-year sleep, and each awakening mind added new voices to the growing symphony. But Emma was fading. Her small body trembled with the effort of maintaining the wake-up song across such vast distances. Sweat beaded on her forehead, and her breathing became shallow and quick. "Emma, please stop," Maria begged, tears streaming down her face. "You're going to hurt yourself." Dr. Chen monitored Emma's vital signs with growing alarm. Her brain activity is off the charts. She can't maintain this much longer. Emma opened her eyes for a moment and looked at her mother. "I have to choose, Mommer. I can wake everyone up really fast and maybe get hurt, or I can teach them slowly but stay here for years and years. But there's another way." "What other way, sweetheart?" Emma smiled. "Even though she was clearly exhausted, I can teach them too. Teach others, then everyone can choose for themselves, and I can come home." Before anyone could ask what she meant, Emma's song changed again. Instead of the complex harmonies she had been singing, she began humming a simple melody that even a child could learn. It was the basic pattern of the wake-up song, stripped down to its essential notes. Across the galaxy, the awakening civilizations heard Emma's new song and began to understand. The Centauri, who had been among the first to wake up, started teaching the melody to their neighbors. Other species that had awakened picked up the tune and shared it with worlds that were still sleeping. Instead of one little girl carrying the burden of waking up the entire galaxy, billions of voices began to join the cosmic chorus. On the ancient construct, something remarkable happened. The eldest of the Silence Weavers, beings who had been asleep since before humans evolved, began to remember their original purpose. They had once been the galaxy's greatest musicians and teachers, sharing the joy of consciousness through song. The lullaby had been their attempt to end suffering, but they had forgotten that consciousness itself was a gift worth preserving. These ancient beings, their minds vast and powerful beyond human comprehension, began to sing Emma's wake-up song, in harmonies that stretched across dimensions. But they did more than just sing. They began to teach the song to every sleeping mind they could reach, just as Emma had taught them. "Look at the scanner readings," Dr. Turner said in amazement. "The signal is multiplying exponentially. Every mind that wakes up becomes a teacher for others." Emma's breathing began to steady as the burden of the wake-up song spread across countless voices. She no longer had to maintain the melody by herself. The galaxy was learning to wake itself up. "The sleeping friends remember now," Emma said softly. "They remember that music is supposed to bring joy, not sadness. They're going to help everyone choose whether to sleep or stay awake." Through the ship's communication system, they could hear reports coming in from across human space. Danny Kim's crystal towers on Mars were resonating with songs from dozens of different worlds. Sophie Byrne's paintings on Europa were showing new images of beings waking up and dancing among the stars. The 12 other gifted children were laughing and singing as they felt the joy of billions of minds choosing consciousness over eternal sleep. The massive construct outside their ship completed its transformation. What had once been a weapon of forced sleep was now a beacon of choice and harmony. The Silence Weavers emerged from their crystal chambers, their forms tall and graceful, with faces that showed both ancient wisdom and childlike wonder at being. Awake again, Commander Morrison received a communication request from the construct. When he accepted it, the main screen filled with the image of a Silence Weaver whose voice sounded like music itself. "Small singing one," the being said, looking directly at Emma, "you have given us the greatest gift. You reminded us that true peace comes not from ending consciousness, but from choosing how to use it." Emma stood up, her strength returning now that she no longer carried the weight of the galaxy's awakening alone. "I'm glad you remember how to choose now. Will you help the other sleeping friends learn too? We will spend the rest of our existence teaching them what you taught us. The galaxy will always have the choice between rest and wakefulness, between dreams and reality. And those who choose to be awake will help those who wish to sleep do so peacefully." Dr. Chen looked at her instruments in wonder. The transformation is complete. The ancient lullaby has become something entirely new. It's broadcasting an invitation. Now, not a command. Emma walked to the observation window and looked out at the transformed construct. The big music box is happy now. It gets to play beautiful songs instead of sad ones. Maria knelt beside her daughter and hugged her tightly. "Are you ready to go home?" Emma nodded. "The sleeping friends don't need me anymore. They can take care of each other now." As the harmony turned away from the construct and began its journey back to human space, Emma's work continued across the galaxy. The wake-up song spread from world to world, not as a weapon or a force, but as a gift freely given and freely received. Some civilizations chose to wake up completely. Others preferred to sleep a while longer. Many found a balance between rest and consciousness that worked for them. The Silence Weavers rebuilt their great instrument into something magnificent. Instead of broadcasting a lullaby of eternal sleep, it became a cosmic radio station that shared music, stories, and knowledge. Across the galaxy, beings from thousands of different worlds contributed their own songs and melodies, creating a symphony of diversity that celebrated both the joy of being awake and the peace of choosing rest. Emma returned to New Haven Colony as a hero, but she was still just a 3-year-old girl who liked to hum while she played. She continued to arrange metal tools in her mother's workshop, but now the patterns she made were happy ones that sparkled in the sunlight. Danny Kim's crystal towers became the foundation for a new kind of communication network that connected human space to the galactic community. Sophie Byrne's paintings were displayed in museums across the galaxy, showing beings from countless worlds that consciousness was a gift to be cherished and protected. The galaxy had learned that sometimes the most profound wisdom comes from the smallest voices, and that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their courage, but their ability to see hope where others saw only endings. Emma had taught an entire galaxy that every voice mattered in the cosmic symphony, and that the universe was always more beautiful when everyone got to choose their own part in the song. Years later, when Emma was old enough to understand what she had accomplished, she would teach her own children the wake-up song. And they would teach it to their children, ensuring that the galaxy would never again fall into an unwilling sleep. The stars themselves seemed to sing with gratitude, and in this space between worlds, ancient beings and young voices harmonized together in the endless music of conscious choice.